Good morning. All right. So, my full name is Ticha Tanamjitpong. My friends call me M.
And my name's Kyle Daughtry, and my friends call me Kyle. But in all seriousness, we're here to talk to you about how ExxonMobil is moving to a more visual way of working. Yeah, before we do that, I'd like to give an introduction, a little bit more into ourselves and background. So I've been at Exxon for about 15 years, a bunch of different technology roles. Myself and Em met each other probably about 8 to 10 years ago. And we've been on a journey for how do we change the corporation through immersive technology, 3D, and ultimately digital twins. So for the past 8 years or so, we've been building strategies for what do we do for immersive technologies. And really, the past 3 years or so is how do we take 3D and digital twins to the next level. My official title is a capability architect for the digital reality ecosystem. Really what that means is I'm looking for strategy and roadmap for how do we build out this whole ecosystem.
And I've been with ExxonMobil for about 19 years now. My current role, I'm dual rolling as well, as Kyle mentioned, acting as an enterprise 3D architect for the overall solution of the digital reality ecosystem, and also as the extended reality domain architect, where I look out and prove out the roadmap for immersive technology studios, our immersive technology sector. And we're going to tell you guys a story, and we're really going to break it down into 4 sections, really, right? And start off with, as mentioned, with immersive, our immersive journey here at ExxonMobil, which is really going to lead you to talk about what is this industry opportunity, which we'd like to share, followed by our journey through immersive and our 3D life cycle. And in the end, we want to close it off with this overview of the digital reality ecosystem. So back to you, Kyle.
So to start, immersive at Exxon. I guess the first place to start is to say that for the past few years or so, myself and Em, we've been going across conferences across the world, trying to express and share what we've been doing within the space of immersive technology, from the aspect of taking training to help save potential lives, to doing design on facilities to make them more efficient and easy to build and operate at the end of the day, to ultimately enabling connected worker so we can, be there without being there, allow operators to get information at real time whenever they're there in person. But instead of talk to you about that part in a lot of details, we'd rather actually take the opportunity to share a glimpse inside of how we're building some of the tools in our environment. And so we got the approval to be able to share a couple of those simulations through video. The best way to represent it for us is we think photo's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000 photos, and XR is worth 1,000 videos.
And a really fun fact, too, is we started a lot of this in the digital garage. We really utilized a startup within an enterprise. So thinking about that is really allowing folks to really come down, share their use cases for us to collaborate and cross-pollinate. And from there, we were able to prove those concepts out, deploy them at sites, right, at scale, and then from there, create an internal group called Immersive Technology Studios. But the industry opportunity is our industry data. Man, it's industry data for us. What we've been looking back is it's been moving at an exponential rate. From IoT sensors to PNIDs, right, to our drawings and so forth, we are at a transformative time where I could tell you our historical operating rates 10 years ago. And with all that data comes really a great deal of responsibility for the corporation.
We say that industry data is moving at exponential rates. It really is like a tsunami of data coming at us. There's a study that was done from 2016 to 2021 that there was an increase in big data by 4,300%. And to be honest, data, 1D, 2D data has been the foundation for digital transformation journeys for the past decade or so, and still is and will continue to be. But one of the problems that we started seeing was we needed new ways to be able to contextualize that information, both in space and time in some way, to be able to make more humanistic understandings of the data. Or, like we like to put it, we're moving from the age of data into the age of experience and being able to take information and give it to you in real time at the time you need it.
Let me ask him that question then.
Yeah, go for it.
Show of hands for folks, right? How many of you guys use Yelp here? Like, especially the folks that just came to visit, right? You know, I'm going to go to a restaurant or a bar. Okay, cool. Or even shop on Amazon. I think there was early access day yesterday, right? And how did you make that decision?
I missed it.
Did you go through the reviews, right? Read those details, like the text. Did you see the reviews, that user experience? Did you see the photos, the supporting ones, associated videos? Or even in Amazon's use case, possibly bring up a 3D asset inside your house to see if that couch fit scenario, for example. But that's what we mean. We're really merging all that data in a more humanistic way so that way you can make that decision immediately. But our industry, even though we've got mounds of all that data, we are still stuck in a 2D visualization world. So this picture right here really represents it well, right? Where how we are still attaching our business processes to our 2D artifacts. So equipment records, ISOs, risk data, and so forth, right? And our vision really is to really enable that visual data at scale.
We ultimately see a future where an operator has access to all his information at real time, in his hands, or on a phone, or on a tablet through many different visual modalities, and at some point in time on a headset or in his eyes. But really, that is the big transformation that we're starting to see is we're living in a fundamentally three-dimensional world, right? Everything that we see around us, we interpret and we understand based off of context into how it is in the real world. But that data stream that we have right now is 2D. So why would I add that extra contextual load or cognitive load on top of myself to be able to understand information in a fundamentally three-dimensional world? And with that, we see this big disruption within industry by real-time 3D. And what we mean by that is we see complete work processes being transformed by the entertainment and gaming industry world because of their power to be able to get you information real-time at any time through essentially engines like Unity and Unreal. And this photo that's behind you, although it's kind of washed out on these particular slides, it's not just a photo, it's actually a simulated world of one of our plants. We've got a couple of them like this to look, act, and feel like the real world. And that's one of the big transformations that's coming down the pipeline for us. From the aspect of simulating process flow to taking photorealistic environments and layering on consequential scenarios so people can train in new ways, to ultimately be able to design collaboratively across the world with engineers to make that plant more efficient. We see a massive disruption from the aspect of real-time 3D. And if you've got kids that are out there playing Fortnite or Minecraft or Roblox, we really do see, let them keep on playing because we see a transformation in the industry where we're going to start moving more to these real-time environments that are going to enable things to happen that we wouldn't even dream of a couple of years ago.
That's actually a great segue, actually, to our journey. We started off with real-time 3D, really. And so, but before we really, actually, I'm sorry, before we do get into the journey, though, right? Switch over the slide for me. The other way. Thank you. From left to right, real-time 3D, right? We used it first for immersive learning, and our goal at that time was to save lives. Like Kyle mentioned, right, providing those consequential types of trainings immersively, what we call almost in a way scarring the brain versus actually having to have to go through it in real life, right? But we did that. And then from there, that led to, well, if I can see my unit, I can train on this immersively, can I see my entire facility? And that led us to like, well, let's start exploring our 30, 60, 90% design reviews immersively. And that led to, okay, well, hey, that's cool. I can see all these, so now we can reduce time on discussions, right? So for example, I can't reach it, conversation over, because I'm in the immersive collaboration space to really show you that versus having to rotate a 3D model on a 2D screen to really say, I told you, let's do this measurement. Let's just jump in VR, for example, and just see if that really does fit the scale. That naturally led to, well, can I see that data? Right? What if I tapped on this pipe right here? What's that metadata look like, right? And so that led us to really pseudo-digital twin platforms explorations that really taught us a lot about, well, what is the industry's definition? What are those capabilities during at that time, and where do we think they're trying to go? And then from there, a whole bunch of immersive stuff, but nothing really on the AR or MR side. So we started exploring really our augmented field workers and track really to be able to bring our 3D assets out into the world, again, for the will your couch fit scenario, but on a massive scale. Tons of great work, but that cost a lot of money and time for us. And so we did partner up with one of the major gaming engines to create an application called Pipeline for Pipes, a little play on words, right? But really it's an automated site training. Feed in your 3D asset, create an environment, reduce time and cost for that automated site training. Tons of great collaboration again on that, and then that led us really to be partnering up with global projects to identify this 3D asset lifecycle. Because while you guys are doing stuff in designs, you guys are doing stuff for training, what else is ExxonMobil utilizing it? And so we created a white paper internally to really identify our 3D asset lifecycle. How are we using them? When are we doing this? What's the risk behind this? What's the mitigations? What are the benefits, right? To really move to a more visual way of working. But when that white paper came out, Kyle and I were thinking, and we're like, well, what is that North Star? It's DRE, the digital reality ecosystem, or what you guys might call the industrial metaverse.
And in 2022, right, you can't, Em mentions the industrial metaverse. I don't think you can get rid of a presentation that doesn't have metaverse in it or digital twin. These are the big buzzwords that are happening today. But we're taking it relatively seriously. And the big representation that we're showing here is a transformation across the industry. And the Industrial Revolution and those components have happened over the past couple of hundred years. And right now we're in this aspect of Industry 4.0 and how do we actually take a lot of data together and digital twins and give context to the real world in some way, some fashion. But we see a transformation happening beyond that. We're not there yet, but being able to integrate space, time, and relevance to people to give them the information in real time at any time. And that's what we're calling this aspect of moving to the industrial metaverse. Or we also like to call it taking real-time 3D, human-computer interaction, augmented mixed reality, XR, and AI and ML, and combining it and mashing it all up together to be able to enable the digital world and the physical world to coexist and ultimately allow more information to folks while they're in the field.
We are here to the meat of the sandwich now, right? The overview of the digital reality ecosystem. So, what is the digital reality ecosystem? Next slide, please, for me, please. All right, thank you.
A lot of words.
It's a lot of words, right? But we start off as saying we're moving to a visual way of working, right? Our journey towards that. And so what is DRE? It's an interconnected network of data. And we're using 3D as the cornerstone of that, right? But it's got to allow our asset information to really be modular, open, and agnostic. We got to take industry standards. We can't make our own standards. We're not going to be able to keep up. Why? Corporate scale and integration. No more onesie-twosies. Let's all head north together. It may be northwest and northeast, but at least we're all going to start heading north together. And then we can really fine-tune that so we can all get towards that north direction. Why? As mentioned, move into a visual way of working. And that purpose, again, is really to maximize that life cycle of our 3D assets from that white paper for a wide range of visual modalities that we use internally. Animations, designs, simulations, right? Turnaround, scope and planning, digital twins, interactive 3D. We want to maximize that life cycle all the way. And we've identified 4 pillars. For you folks, it probably is pretty simple, but it really has helped us internally really modularize and have that internal discussion about when that 3D asset lifecycle gets captured, right? How are you capturing it? What's that data? What's that metadata behind that? Where are you storing that right now? Are you using it for any other way? Are you delivering any other way? And if you are, we'd like to learn about that. What's that cost at time? What are you losing? What are you gaining out of that? And how are you consuming that 3D asset? For what use case? What applications are there in our environment? And that's what we mean by our asset lifecycle.
So we've said it a couple of times at the end of the day that DRE is enabling an ecosystem of digital twins at scale with the mission to create an industrial metaverse. And we mean it, right? And we'd like to push on that really hard for how do we actually take these components and allow scale across the industry. It's not just an ExxonMobil journey. We don't want it to be an ExxonMobil journey. The reason why we're out here is we're trying to share what we're working on and collaborate with the industry to be able to push the whole industry forward at the end of the day. But one of the things we had to do towards the beginning inside of the company was gain a better understanding of what a digital twin is. And we're not trying to recreate the definition for a digital twin.
There's like 255 out there if you look at a white paper.
Exactly.
So we got to come to a single definition at least.
There's a ton out there, and I don't think there's really a good unanimous. There's like a one-liner that tells you that it's the digital world connected with process data and information in real time. But one of the things we needed to do internally was not only align on that definition, but bring together the parties that really enable a digital twin across the corporation. And one of the ways that we did that was actually create this Venn diagram to show the 3 different components for us that are pulled together to build an ecosystem of digital twins. From that top left-hand corner, focused on simulation, so all the process control work that happens inside of our industry, to the thermodynamics, et cetera, things that have been rooted for quite a bit of time. To the data, so the 1D, 2D data, whether that's equipment, engineering, inspection data, ERP information, lots of that data that's already there, big roots in that space. But one of the things that our stakeholder, as we started socializing this, said was this top right-hand quadrant, or part of the Venn diagram, however you want to say it, in visualization on how you manage your 3D assets, was relative white space inside of at least our company, kind of in our industry, and how you actually manage it independently but also connected inside of it. We call it white space, but we made it blue. We probably should have made it white or flipped that around, but that's just slides. And really the whole goal is to figure out what are the guardrails and guidance for the sites and the platforms we should leverage to be able to help integrate within data, so the data platforms that are out there, and then ultimately into the simulation space. Probably the best thing that's been said so far is dumb dimensional data. At the end of the day, the data doesn't mean it. The 3D data on itself doesn't mean a whole lot. It gets you somewhere, but doesn't get you all the way there. We see the culmination of all 3 of these being the way that we get to scalable digital twins across the globe. And our biggest focus from our project right now is that top right-hand quadrant, or top right-hand area. Focus on that 3D component.
Remember that journey slide we showed you? Learning, design reviews, digital twins, and so forth. And then capture, store, deliver, consume. We were mapping that out the whole time. Like, what was it, 9, 10 years, right? Just sitting there, okay, well, let's just go back. And then one day we zoomed out. We were like, uh-oh.
It's chaos.
Yeah. And fun fact, this is the only slide that has made across every single deck, internally and externally, to show, right, from top level to down level, like, this is our current state, guys. It's a big bowl of spaghetti mess all over us. A whole bunch of dead ends. You're not supposed to really try to squint your eyes and try to see the details. This picture really just tells you our current state, and it really doesn't allow us to reuse our 3D asset. But this picture can help you. We cleaned it up a little bit, and it's just a trimmed down version, right? I'll talk about the first 2 pillars. Kyle can talk about the other 2, and then we'll show you our future state. But this is our current state. When we started asking sites, right, hey, so how are you getting these 3D assets? Who are you calling? Well, we're using terrestrial scanners, right, to digitize our assets. Okay, cool. and we're using some aerial captures as well. You know, we're using 360 images because we want to be there without being there. You know, and on the engineering side, right, the EPCs are creating our 3D assets for us during projects and delivering to them. You know, but we're also using optical metrology grade scanners, right? We're creating them ourselves as well. Okay? Multiple formats, tons of service providers, various data sets, okay? And where are you storing them? Well, it's in my local drive right now. It's in my land share. It's in my email. I got it in my OneNote. I do own my 3D model. Here's a PDF file they sent me. You know? And we're like, uh-oh.
That's happened multiple times.
Like, geez, okay, all right. Kyle, talk about the other two.
Yeah. So that really has happened multiple times, and probably will continue to happen for a bit of while until you get education across the entire company. But that second part, so the delivery piece, I mean, where we're at right now is relative chaos in how we actually deliver it to get a job done, whether that's actual access to the metadata independently from how the data was stored, or it's access to pipelines for us to do transformations, or really access to how that information, the LODs of it for a particular use case. It's a bit chaos. We built that pipeline for pipes tool that helped us out a bit, but there's other optimization paths, there's other platforms, and engineering transition software, all kinds of chaos that's going on in the background. And then really, on the right-hand side, in the consumption space, is trying to get a job done. And the reuse of that information is very far and few between, at least at scale across the company, or it was prior to us coming into this scenario. And that, you know, could be an engineer going out and capturing in the field to do a turnaround plan, or it could be for that same set of data, I want to use it for training. Or I've got a rebuild that I want to take that same data set and ultimately pipe it into design. We want to be able to capture that information and reuse it, and in the current state, it really hinders that data reuse.
This is how we're going to get there. And we're already starting to do that. We started last October, actually. From capture, democratize it, right? Y'all got one of these in your pocket. But 22 years ago, this has really changed the way we consume data, our tolerance or patience for things to load, right? But today, we have the ability in our hand, I think someone mentioned it during the panel as well, right? That I really can create a 3D asset from my handheld phone already.
I'll take a scan of you right now,
So,
to be honest.
I'll stand still then while I'm talking. But democratize capture. We're providing guidance and guardrails to our sites. And what that means is, well, let's have that documented so that we do know what are the viable formats, what are the legacy ones inside ExxonMobil, right? What does that metadata structure look like? What is required? What's optional? Who are our service providers that are going to be vetted with enabling agreements? Essentially 1-800-SCAN-ME by region, right? No longer do we want the days where we see an EPC scanning a unit and waiting for another EPC to scan the exact same unit. Oh my gosh. But we got to get that in order. Storage, not a central one, right? I'm sorry, centralize the storage, but there's going to be multiple ones. But let's make sure we find out the viable ones, take advantage of cloud computing, understand what that data on-ramp is like, and that user experience for us as well as our service providers. What's that off-ramp going to be? What are the APIs, microservices that we need to take advantage of or create, right? That storage is a really big key. It's this whole concept. Same thing, I'll take it back to the cell phone back then, right? Remember when you couldn't take your number with you? That was your data. We yelled and screamed about that. And today, take out the SIM card. Well, now they have eSIMs, but for that purpose, right? Take out that SIM card. Your number goes with you. That data goes with you onto a new phone, so a new platform. It doesn't matter whether it's an Android or an iPhone. and I can choose any service provider that I want, whether it's going to be T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, and the list goes on. It's the same concept, really, of separating software from data.
Yeah, and to extend on that and hit that right-hand side of where we're trying to go. I mean, that capture that I just did, right, was seconds. It's already processed. Can show you afterwards, right? I'm not going to throw it up on the screen. Won't give you the data either. It's his himself. It's probably not a good idea. But the reality of that is being able to take data and deliver it autonomous or semi-autonomously. The speed at which I can get that information out and into a format that's adaptable to any of the platforms I want to consume it on, that is where we're going. But I also want to take it a step beyond that and actually give more information for people autonomously through a pipeline. What's the space, what's the time, when, how, why. So then whenever I want to do consumption and contextualize that information in the real world, I can do it anytime, anywhere. And we really mean that, whether that's visual modalities through devices, so headsets, phones, tablets in the field, AR, all the fun stuff. Or, it's back remote across the seas. Or at the end of the day, I want to see a scrub of time over a period, over an asset. And the biggest part that we said before was this data is dumb until you do enrichment of that engineering equipment, the ERP data, that aspect of it. If we don't have this separation of context, we're not going to be able to do it at scale. It doesn't mean that there's only one particular platform for each tool to use or each particular modality. What it means is we need to be able to separate these things so we can actually do it more often. Scan on the daily, scan on the hourly, go out and scan with your phone, integrate it back into the data set. You can't do that right now at scale. And part of that has to do with industry from our side, and part of that has to do with us building better relationships and collaboration with folks in the industry like you guys. And really, you see at the bottom part there, we say space and time. Like one of our biggest focuses is space and time. How do I actually know when and where it was created? And that digital thread is going to continue to enable that for us to happen. So I can scrub and know what it looked like prior and what it looked like afterwards. And I want to be able to do that independent of platform. I know that sounds wild, but independent of platform, so I know whenever I pull it into that next platform, I can scrub that time as well.
This project is to enable the foundation for 3D. As we've gone on this journey, like Kyle mentioned, right? We started exploring time and space. If you lay out the foundation for those three components to build out your digital reality, essentially using those alternate realities to enhance your reality, we started realizing, like through our maturity models, that we can unlock so much more. Think about like critical procedures. How do you pull up a critical procedure? You gotta know where you are, right? And that gets to industrial location services. But you need that data foundation to know exactly where you are, what that procedure is, and how does it get visualized. Those are just examples of what laying out those foundations.
At the end of the day, this whole thing is digital reuse. Want to reuse our information. Again, separate the data from the software so I can use it many times. And what we started to do is put out like a staged approach to how we wanted to tackle it. One of the folks that's our sponsors is a military veteran, and he came up with the term hills versus phases. You reach the top peak towards one of the first hills, and you can see over to the next one and start accomplishing the next task. And it really resonated with us heavily, so we've been taking that on pretty heavily. But short term, what we wanted to do prior to us being able to build out the entire guardrails for the entire ecosystem was to be able to do what we called stop the bleeding. So sites are using information and going out there and collecting it. They might not be collecting it appropriately or might not be able to be storing it appropriately, so we can reuse it. So setting a set of guardrails and guidance for those sites, both on how they capture it, how they store it, where they send it, what are they using it for, the fidelity, all up and down the stack of how we capture that information. And we built that. We're looking for help within the industry as well to give more detail to it. I think it would be amazing if we had an industry standard around the guardrails for what to do, when, why, and which particular use case. There are some of those things that are out there, but it would be great to have a collective one for each particular industry. And so post that, that short term, we said decouple data from software, right? Let's start pulling out the aspects of the reality capture data so we can store it centrally, or at least in multiple systems that interconnect with each other. So we can ultimately, long term, be able to visualize our fleet of assets from the global level, seeing the health status of that particular asset, or a few of them, red, green, yellow, whatever you want to call it, and then dive into the molecular level and see the process flow for that particular site. And it's a little bit wildish out there. Technology's there to be able to do it, but for our industry it's a little wild, but we're trying to throw a long-term vision out there so we can shoot for the moon and actually start to hit the stars. Opposite way around.
Okay. Let's see if this works.
I lost
We
it
got a final video. We actually got approved to share it. It's been an internal video to really help, right? Bring other folks together, because they're like, what is this ecosystem? And this ecosystem really considers, is a whole bunch of components. I talked to you guys about capture, store, deliver, and consume, right? But this entire component of our ecosystem, that's it back there. So I'll start from the top. Consists of our service providers, right? Providing that guidance to those sites to say, these are the people that you'll call. Those are the folks that you can send out the RFPs for. We've got enabling agreements done for them, and they're working based on our guardrails and guidance on there. Storage. This is where you're going to put it. And then we're going to create an MVP, so that way we can own that data and take that to be interoperable across platforms and systems. Here's a scenario. I go to Kyle, for example, and say, hey, Kyle, you've got this site, right? And you're on platform X. I need you to go to platform Y now. And Kyle's going to say, no. You know why? Because my guys have spent thousands of hours tagging things on this platform already. Like, I know what Pump 101 is. I know where it is already. I've got my asset information tied. Why am I going to leave? It's cheaper. There's another platform. It's faster. More capabilities. You don't have to develop them. They're coming out the box. Folks, at the end of the day, this is an emerging technology landscape. And you'll continue to see new platforms coming up, mergers, acquisitions, and so forth. And what we're telling our industry is we need to stay nimble and own that data. So storage is really one of our backbones. Platforms. What applications do I use? Kyle mentioned stop the bleeding, right? Just downstream alone. On our manufacturing sites, we've got about 38 of them. 38 platforms? Come on. Seriously, for all these use cases, let's go from many to a few, but make sure they do meet those use cases. And that right there starts unlocking, as mentioned, space, time, visualization, the platforms that you use from capture, store, deliver, to consume, the use cases that are coming out of the woodwork for us under the theme of moving to a visual way of working. How you did your work processes today, and with Dre, how you use your work process tomorrow. For example, turnaround and maintenance scope and planning, right? To be there without being there. Well, I'll use a visualization platform for that. I'll probably use a mobile scanner to capture that, because that use case requires only inches. And if I need more fidelity or detail, I'll get to the terrestrial scanners. Or if I need to get to virtual assembly, then I'm probably going to get to thousandths of an inch. And that's going to require a different type of hardware. But that's what we mean by use cases driven.
And into that external engagement, it's exactly what we're trying to do here. We're both trying to influence the industry by going out and talking about this, but also be influenced. So, right, take guidance and ultimately work together to be able to build these solutions for the future. This is a journey. It's not a one-year project or anything like that. It's a journey over the next few years, at least, to lay out the foundation for us. And we're serious about it. Moving to a visual way of working is something that we're going to start doing across a lot of the use cases that we have. I think there's a collective of like 32 that we've summed up together. Guardrails, we mentioned it before, being able to get to use standards, but also set guardrails for how people should do site capture and the data they should collect at what fidelity for what use case and what level. And one of the ones that's kind of near and dear to our heart is workforce enablement. Over the past couple of months or so, we've actually been creating out a skills family across the company to be able to expand how people inside the company can contribute, whether they're part of this particular structure or they're outside of it working in the business units across the globe. And it's actually been extremely eye-opening to see how many folks are throwing up their hands and saying, oh my gosh, I've been doing this in my personal life for the last like 10 years. I'm super interested in getting involved, whatever I can do to be able to help out. It's been extremely powerful. So we built out a skill family to progress people's journey in that whole process. It's been super exciting. But these 7 things are really the components that we see that we're going to continue to push, both from what we call innovation, growth, and scale. Scale being the aspect of taking stuff that we've already vetted very heavily and just busting it out to the entire world. Nick out here in the audience, he's the guy that's leading all the scaled efforts across the globe. So thank you, Nick. And then myself and Em, we're focused on this innovation and growth and how do we actually look at new technologies and new ways of doing work to try to introduce it to the workforce, but do it in a scaled fashion and in a scaled down fashion. Take a couple of sites and work out use cases. Imagine a world where, you know, that trainer, the trainer and the trainee have access to their environment and their assets prior to the actual asset being built and feeling like they're physically there and training prior to being there. And then really, at the end of the day, is imagine a world where we have access to so much information for a designer that they can sit at their home, at their desk, laying in their bed, whatever it is, and down to the actual insulation of a pipe, change the color, and be able to propose that back out to the rest of the world. I know that's a little nitty-gritty one. Really, for us, it's imagine a world where we have all the information in the operator's hands to where they make the right decisions at the right time and they have all of it so they can go home safe to their families. And that's been super near and dear to myself and Em's hearts about how do we actually make sure people have the right information to go home safe. We're going to go ahead and play through our videos. Got 2 of them, one of them around immersive and then the other one around Dre, the effort that we're working on. And then we'll take questions. We'll be over here to take questions. I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and play the video. So hopefully that was entertaining. A little bit of a glimpse into some of the stuff that we're working from the immersive side. And that's a mixture of us taking obviously CAD data and scan data and then turning it into real-time simulations. In a lot of those cases, some of them are for design reviews, some of them for simulation and training. And so the other one that we had that we were going to play, and now we'll get to play it in full right now, is around the digital reality ecosystem, and hopefully giving you a little bit more of an understanding from that. Bada boom.
From laser scanning to virtual reality, 3D models and other digital data captures are quickly becoming must-have technologies in our industry. Globally, ExxonMobil has spent tremendous resources on independent 3D efforts, from capture to creation, and even purchased visual assets. These 3D models help us gain better insights, make informed decisions, visualize disparate data, and streamline innovation. However, many of our 3D assets are stored in various locations and used locally when they could be leveraged across ExxonMobil facilities. As part of a company-wide initiative, we're establishing a digital reality ecosystem, which will serve as a foundation for our 3D visual assets platform. This ecosystem will help us capture 3D models in formats that everyone can use, centralize where they are stored, and automate the way they are delivered, so they can be used by anyone, at any time, from anywhere. This ecosystem will allow us to move toward a more visual way of working with contextualized data, which will be essential to our success for corporate scale and integration, now and in the future.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I guess now we'll just take some questions, for sure.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, the mic for Q&A is over here. I know there's some headshot photos being taken, but that mic is on the stand there. And also, while we're waiting, we got a new Exxon guy up here, right?
Yeah, Nick Peterson.
All right. So what's your role?
So I'm the 3D product owner, and my job is to scale out the platforms that we choose to be in the digital reality ecosystem, as well as make agreements and contracts with vendors, service providers, and stuff like that.
Is that pretty easy?
No. At the corporate scale that ExxonMobil is, I have to set up the meetings with the vendors in the local areas to get everyone on board, talking the same language. What we really want is to make this ecosystem of different tools that people can use for different use cases. And we want the sites to be able to have a kind of like a menu option of here's what to use when.
That's a pretty challenging thing to right now,
and that's the company right now.
Yeah, that's what we've talked a bit about. Like you mentioned earlier, is how can you know when you're like, how many thousands of sites do you have?
Yeah.
And how even if you love the data, how do you approach being able to implement this amazing plan? It's a difficult scenario because there is no certification, there's no licensure of, hey, the expert laser scan. When you look at a vendor, you have to analyze by yourself. And of course, there's a lot of people getting into the technology, and they want to say that they can do it, and they have one of the tools. And so I think that something as an industry we need at some point is a certification or some way to qualify and say, look, this is what we know that company can do, accuracy-wise or industry-wise.
Yeah, or use case-wise. 100%. I think that was one of the things we're hitting on heavy. Would be happy to work with industry collaborators to be able to do something like that. I think that it may seem very it makes sense, right? It's already out there. But for owner operators, for folks that are trying to accomplish this on massive number of sites, and you got Nick having to work with people across the globe in different areas, it's not an easy task at the end of the day to be able to take that on at scale. And there's not a company that could probably take that on at scale single-handedly alone.
That's why can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we did have a good head start though, right? In terms of like, well, who are already in our ecosystem now? Who are the sites already calling, right? And do those enabling agreements already exist? What are the terms and conditions at this time? So that did help out, but like you said, Matt, we do need to further develop that criteria. Just like that ecosystem sphere that we were talking about in terms of the service, right? It's gonna we need to continue to develop that criteria, but again, out here with adjacent industries and with our industry, right, to really try to further continue to develop that together.
I mean, I have a lot of questions. I don't know if anybody else did. I know we have the mic over there. Maybe the guys with all the questions for you head out. I do have one question. On some of the visualization stuff you just showed in your video, looking at the simulations and the virtual reality, and where is that actually as far as implementation versus idea and future?
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. So all of the things in that particular video are in some shape, form out at sites across the globe. Are we at every single site with those particular initiatives? No, but at a large number of training scenarios. So we partnered up with, we've partnered up with business units across the globe so far to be able to do that training. And that was the first thing that kind of took off towards scale was, let me train folks to, like we said, hopefully help save their lives and bring them home safely. But the rest of it, yeah, absolutely. All of those things are in somewhat production facing, and actually led to why we needed to be able to, the oh crud moment. Like, what are we going to do with all this information, and how? And I don't know what to do. And like we're like, it's like holding together like a toothpick right now, with a huge weight on top of it. It could easily snap at any point in time.
Yeah. We got a question. Oh, press the button, sorry.
Hello, testing?
Yes,
so
sir.
So it looks like Exxon is well on their way to release the Industry 5.0 video game. So I don't know if you guys have any plans on releasing something like that to get the next generation excited about going into the trades.
It's an awesome question. So I think so. We started on a pathway in the past of like licensing some of the tools, to trades, to industry trade locations where they can pick it up and run with it. We've done that for a couple of the places down in the South in Texas. Hit or miss around the trade schools picking it up. But yeah, that's I like the idea.
We had some interns this year too that loved it.
Oh yeah.
Because they see this stuff all the time. So we had 4 interns that just, I mean, they go off faster than even, I mean, I thought I was young still, but these kids are still in college, like they get this stuff like that, and they can really run with it if you just give them the tools.
Yeah, we actually brought in, those interns came in with no 3D experience, no scanning experience, that they didn't know any, no robotic experience. And they ended up, at the end of the time, delivering an end-to-end pipeline for scanning at a particular site autonomously with a robot. It's actually crazy how fast they can pick up things. Now, I would have never been able to do that. I would have come in and floundered pretty easily.
And I also have a follow-up. So as an educator, I'm always looking for new and fun things to do in my courses. So I don't know whether Exxon would be willing to lend me access to some of your metaverse stuff.
Oh, we could definitely talk.
Yeah.
We're huge on that front, honestly. There was, if you check out xrshowdown.com, that's something that we participated in where we provided an industry problem, right? And it funded some of those initiatives out there to really provide the college students a chance to really provide that solution. And in the end, there was actually a huge partnership with Unity and a few other majors. I think some folks got a job during that time as well, but it's nothing new, and we'd love those types of opportunities.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys again for coming.
No, absolutely.
We look forward to moving the industry forward together. All right. Thank you guys.
Join us in our journey.